All right. So today we are joined by Mary Anderson, my amazing friend who is here to share her knowledge with us, who I've been working with Dixie. And I hope that some of you have seen a few of the videos I've posted. If you're interested, I've made that guide optional because I know while this absolutely relates to hoof care and hooves, it's a little bit more out there in terms of the horsemanship side of things. So I know it's not going to be for everybody, but I'm super excited because it's totally opening up my brain and changing my perspective on things. Mary, I just wanted to have you give a brief introduction because I wasn't totally sure how to introduce you. So I'll tell you what I wrote. I said, a discussion with my friend Mary Anderson, who has a ton of experience in biomechanics and horsemanship, and who has been my coach and sounding board for the last several years. She is classically trained in dressage, but has studied in many other disciplines and is not committed to just one method or modality as it relates to horsemanship, but instead alters her approach based on the horse in the moment, something I also believe necessary in my career, so this resonates with me well. I
I'm going
hope
to get
that.
you right all of my introductions. That was beautiful. I almost sound like I know what I'm doing. This is awesome. No. Yeah, so that pretty much, I guess, nails it on the head. I think the biggest thing for me is building a toolbox. So when you say that it's a little out there on terms of horsemanship, it's a little bit farther into opening your senses to be able to feel the horse. I'm happy to bridge that gap because I was totally hardcore horsewoman lady for years. I've done everything from work on a working cattle ranch to dressage. I've kind of run the gamut of different disciplines. And for me, it just became really obvious that I would always run into walls with whatever discipline. I could never find a discipline that filled the box for all the horses. So that's kind of I guess that's it. That's the rundown. So I just started looking for as many options as I could, and I started to find that there were some consistent patterns that, um, I will talk about. So I'll do my best not to run amok and keep this short and sweet for everybody.
But to me, that's totally acceptable. No,
Yeah.
that's cool. So I just was filling Mary in before you guys all joined about the videos I had posted, because she hasn't actually watched them back yet. But basically, just kind of trying to document my journey with Dixie. Dixie's a great case for me because she's lived here for what seems like forever, 5 or 6 years now. And to me, she's like the most obedient, wonderful horse. I've done absolutely nothing with her except tread on what someone else taught her when she showed up here. And I've put total beginners on her and had her pack them up the mountain. I did a youth program for homeless and drug addicted youth for that year and a half. And I would put all of these totally inexperienced youth on her, mini bareback, always in a halter. And she just is the most gracious, giving horse. She would pack them all around and do whatever needed to be done. And in the same breath, I could get on her and, you know, do whatever. I could walk, trot, canter, and spin and roll back and do whatever fancy things I wanted to do. But I will say, I always hated riding her because she was super obedient. Like she did what I asked. So you really couldn't be disappointed. But she didn't feel good. Like she felt tight and bracy and leany and I at the time probably wouldn't have had those words for it other than she's doing what I say but I don't like it. And so how do you possibly discipline that when it's exactly what you want? And so I'm really excited with the newfound knowledge I have to kind of unpack that for her because now the lens I'm looking at, not just her but all of my horses or all the horses with, is more of a how are they experiencing the world and how does that translate to what we're doing and in our horsemanship and wanting to do all the things I want to do with them. And I think Dixie, somewhere in the past, and I'm not saying that she was abused and forced to be this horse. That's not by any stretch what I mean. I think the horsemanship used to train her was probably just like I've practiced for years and years and years. So it's not wrong or bad, it's just different. And now that I've kind of learned something new, I think she was trained just to fear pressure, to fear repercussions, and not even in a terrible way, but just that if you don't relent to the pressure, it doesn't go away or it gets bigger and it's going to be more uncomfortable, as opposed to actually learning, to kind of soften into the pressure. And that's one thing. I still say that, and it even kind of sounds like an oxymoron as I say it. And I don't really have the words to articulate it. This is where Mary is hopefully going to come in today. But other than to say, I was forced down this journey because of my horse Hawk. He was a wildie, that when Tango broke her leg in May, I was like, okay, I really can't send this horse anywhere else. He's totally dangerous and he'll go for meat. And he's just going to sit here and be fat forever. So I better figure out how to go on this journey with him. And he has taught me so much. And through working with him and Mary and finding kind of Josh's work that I know I've talked about, I was able to teach him not to be afraid of pressure. Like I could wave my flag at him all day long, and it has nothing, like it doesn't mean be scared and run and move, but I can also use my flag to move him and to soften him and to get his attention and to do so many things. And that's the piece I think Dixie's missing. She learned one thing. It just always means move off this and move quickly. And it created tension in her body. And as I'm working with Hawk, I'm seeing a horse that should, by all rights, be way more tense, having been wild and then maybe having been pushed the wrong way, and now I'm riding him and doing all these things. He should be more tense in his body than any other horse. And yet he's the loosest, softest horse I own and work with. And so to me, that's like, I don't really know what I'm doing, but something I'm doing in this journey has made me feel so good. I'm addicted to it.
You're killing it.
So I'm feeling it. Like I've had so many horses and done so many different things and worked with so many different people. And Mary's been there by my side as I worked with all these different people to watch probably this evolution. Um, and she even calls me on it all the time. She makes fun of me politely, saying, I've never seen you so giddy over a horse. And it's not that Hawk is special, but it's not Hawk. It's the relationship I've made with him. It's unlike anything I've ever felt with another horse. Even Tango, who is like my heart horse, I love, and Legend before her, he was that. This is different. This is a whole different level I didn't know was there. So anyways, that's why I'm so excited to share it with you guys. Amanda, you're 1,000,000% right. Tango's broken leg was a blessing in disguise. It's changed my world. And I'll never forget when I got the diagnosis. She was in a little pen. I literally went and sat under the trees and cried. And she sat there with me. And like I literally thought about our last ride and how it was going to be the last one we ever had. And I was blubbering like a baby. And now she's sound and happy, and it's like a literal miracle. But that broken leg was whoever kicked her, changed my life and changed Hawk's life and Tango's too, actually, because as she comes back into soundness, I am not the same person I was before. And now me and her are going on this journey too, and all my other horses and any horse I ever get. So anyway, you see, Mary, long-winded is totally acceptable here.
I like it. I like it. Don't give me too much leash or else I'll talk all day. But first of all, there's not very many people that I have personally run into that will put in as much time and dedication that you would put into your horses. So I'll put that out there. Like that comes with any change that you're going to do, you have to put a ridiculous amount of effort into, right? The coolest thing is it doesn't necessarily have to be, and I think we've talked about this before, it doesn't necessarily have to be quantity over quality, right? As long as you can put quality in. And so what most of us do is we pick a discipline, we go and learn the things, but we don't necessarily learn how to do the things with feel. And what happened likely with Dixie is not that the horsemanship wasn't fantastic or amazing. There were moments probably where she would have needed an opportunity to process information a little bit longer. And for you as the trainer to have a moment of feel. So we talk about feel quite a bit. Feel is not something I think the only way to really develop it is to be in it with your horse, to be out there every day, be in the trenches, doing the things with them. And also to just be curious. Curiosity is a huge part of training. I know technically how to develop about 5 different types of horses and different disciplines, but I know the technicality, but developing that feel has taken a lot of time. And I feel like that's what's missing in the training. You know how to do the things, but you don't necessarily know when to pull back, when to take a moment and let your horse process, when to connect with them. Plus, we're so busy in our doing of the thing that we forget to like be connected in the space and in the moment. And so this is where it gets a little bit more, some people might say a little bit more woo woo, but I'm going to tell you some of the best horse people I know out there, when you ever watch them, a lot of them don't ride with other people for a reason, is because when they spend time with their horses, they are like in it. Like I can't hear people anymore in my arena. I literally will pick moments to ride when no one is there, not because I don't enjoy working with people, but because I'm like so deeply in it with my horse. And that's what I found became really addicting really quickly. Plus taking that and layering it onto whatever you're doing. If you're working with cows, if you want to develop your horse classically, if you want to compete in dressage in our modern sport, if you want to whatever you do, it's not necessarily bad. There's about a billion ways how to train a horse. It's can you do it with feel and connectedness? And that's a little bit the relational horsemanship principle has taught me and kind of layered onto the stuff that I've learned in my life, as well as, like I said before, developing a toolbox of skills that helps me assess the horse that I have. So, yeah, I guess we can kind of run through the steps that I would take or what we did with Dixie. Would that help?
Yeah, I just want to kind of say the reason I wanted to talk about this, and for those who maybe are just going to watch this and not all the other Dixie stuff, is like I was trying to say earlier, Dixie's super obedient. She does everything awesome, but she does it with tension in her body that I believe creates a toe first landing. And this is, I just want to kind of keep making this, let's wrap it back into feet just for a second,
Yes.
because one of my questions on my list for you, Mary, it's not a fair question, and I know this, which is why I'm saying it, but it's how do we know if a toe first landing is caused by the foot or the body? And like that's a question I ask myself all the time, and I don't think there's a definitive answer by any
There's
stretch.
no, you don't know. And that's where curiosity comes in as a trainer. So when I see horses, it's really easy to look at a horse and be like, okay, there's a toe first landing, or there's other body tensions, back to toe first. I'm going to really try to stay foot focused here.
I know it's really
For
hard.
me, it's the whole horse. And it usually ties in. So, I mean, obviously, I'm going to see it a little quicker, higher up in the body. And then I recognize the toe first after. I know you are, I can
I'm the
always see
opposite.
you. Even when she comes to my house, I see her eyes just go, look down, So kind of wrapping back to that is I get curious. I want to find out. I have kind of a distinct thing that I'll do. I'll work through certain things to kind of see if I can start to affect a change in the horse. But the very first thing I usually feel for that will give me a hint whether it's necessarily the physical body, like there's a physical issue, or if it's a mental tension, is how the horse responds to me energetically. So if I come in and I touch the rope, if I engage with them at all energetically, is the horse super reactive? Are they blocked? Do they get kind of that glazed, washed out look in their face? I mean, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's not a physical pain or frustration, because we can kind of do a chicken or the egg thing with this. You'll chase your tail quite a bit. For me, it's not even how it got there as much as how can I affect change, and can I affect change? So I get super curious, and I think this is something we need to help a lot more people get brave enough to do. Get curious, like assess, analyze, check your horse out, feel, try some new things. Does it shift? If you put some pressure on the horse, can they yield laterally through their shoulder? So that's kind of it. That'll at least, it's not a definitive
Mhm.
answer, but at least it gives you a tool for assessment to just see if you can affect change. And lots of times horses that have been taught to be obedient and compromise their body in the process of obedience, they have a very distinct feel to them. And this is where feel comes in. This is maybe the touchy feely side of it a little bit more. It's hard for me to explain, and definitely not something I ever believed in the past. I kind of thought if it didn't yield, you need to use more pressure, make it do the thing. But they have this consistency when I engage with them with the rope, that they are willing to compromise their body, but they're not okay with it. Does that make sense? There's a
But
stickiness in
yet,
the space,
yes, but yet they do it.
but they'll do it. And
Yes.
so visually they'll look okay. And then when I see that with a horse that's super obedient and yet is, has their neck on backwards, or their, toe first landing, or they're shuffling around, and then I kind of go, okay, well, this would be a great horse to really get into the assessment process to see if we can help them release some of the tension, and then get curious about what shifts and changes happen in their body, because that can happen almost immediately. You'll see a dramatic shift, and then you have to rebuild musculature to support that. But yeah.
Yeah, I think one of the things I have really enjoyed in this journey learning is the body mapping stuff. I wouldn't have had a clue. Like if I had watched that a couple years ago and just watched someone do it, I'd have been like, yeah, they're just dragging their head down and pulling their nose around. Like I totally would not understand how much communication there is in that tiny feel on the rope. And I am a really make the horse do the thing person and really grabby. And so it would be very easy for me to just grab the rope and pull the head down. So I don't let myself grab the rope. I literally rest the rope like in the whatever corner of my thumb and my finger, and I just rest that on the knot of my lead rope on the halter and don't let myself wrap my fingers around it, because I just, for so many years, hold the rope when they pull and don't give was ingrained in my brain, that I just try to rest the weight of my hand there to feel it. And I had no idea how much I would come to rely on that. Like we've used the body mapping with Hawk to help release anxiety that he had, like with saddling and with all the things. But I have also used it with him to release tension through his body, because when he gets really tense, he's totally lame on his right hind leg. Like it comes out of nowhere. And then as soon as the tension is gone, it's not lame anymore. Like it's weird. Like he just packs his tension there. So, that tension, coming from that mental piece, like it's creating a physical piece. And so I just wanted to talk a little bit about body mapping. And I know, like, I've said to these guys so many times, like, I am not doing Josh Nichols horsemanship. I am practicing my interpretation of it, as you probably practice your interpretation. That's like you see something, you learn something, you add it to what you know. And so he does have a really great free video on YouTube for anybody not in his classroom, if you wanted to poke around to have a better example of what we're talking about. But I'm not affiliated in any way. So I just want you to have the picture in your brain of what we're talking about. But I'd love to talk about body mapping a little bit, because to me, it's become like the one move I do with every horse, because at least I feel like I can get a baseline for their body and how it's feeling.
Absolutely. It's a perfect immediate feedback to let you know what you can do to help affect change in your horse, no matter what level of riding they're at. I'll use it even in riding. You can advance it to riding. It's just essentially like, as we get in step by step, we go, you said you put your hand and just kind of rest your hand on that knot. That is the most immediate and honest response that your horse has to pressure. They're so used to us kind of taking them places that lots of times they'll first brace into it. So we're immediately working with brace almost with every single horse. The one thing I want to say to people is, if you get into body mapping, is be okay in the awkward. That's the hardest thing for most of us, is like if you feel like there's resistance, it's because it's there. Then start to recognize where it is. And that's where we can break down the steps of how you can go through the body mapping. I've taken some of Josh's, like Christy said, I'm not, I've loved working with Josh. He's absolutely amazing. Definitely recommend it. But I'll take some of that and I've blended it into, like I said, even into the riding work to help kind of assess where my horse is in the riding. And even in the long line, all the time, when I'm taking them up the ramp onto a trailer or whatever it is, there's so much opportunity for you to just take a moment and feel into your horse. And the more you do it, the more it's kind of like AI. Not that I should be overly excited about AI, but like the more AI gets to kind of practice something, the quicker it is at like picking up patterns. And the more you can feel into your horse, the more you can actually target kind of those locked areas within their body. So kind of a step, do you want me to go through step by step? Is that,
Yeah, sure.
yeah? I'm trying to behave myself here.
Well, I
Anyone who
think
doesn't know me knows I can talk for like ever in a day. I never
no,
leave Christy's house.
I wish, man, she's got too many responsibilities in life. No, I think
So
that would be really helpful if
yeah.
all everybody could take from this was maybe how to implement some body mapping, that would be a win.
Oh,
But I
that's
think there's more we can get to, but yes.
oh yeah. Yeah, for sure. So body mapping, the basic idea is to find the tension within your horse's body. So one of the very first activity we do is I usually reach in at a standstill and I'll feel into the horse's halter. Can they release tension at the base of their neck? Can they release any tension there? So you could do one of two things. You could sit there and wait for the horse to release, or you can allow movement. Motion is lotion in the body, and it's usually sometimes what'll happen if we're doing it at static is horses are really good. They kind of go through, and this is kind of, I've adapted a little bit from endo tapping. That's a whole another methodology, but there's kind of a process horses go through when their nervous system's resetting to things. So they'll kind of have a resistance. So when you first put pressure onto the halter or have a feel into the halter, they might kind of move around and shift and kind of get uncomfortable. Then you go through this second layer that looks like, we call it tolerance. And this is where a lot of horsemanship, this is where we lose the value of a lot of horsemanship, whatever methodology you're using, is we get horses into tolerance. We don't actually show them how to get into full regulated relaxation. And I say this, I've forever in a day before I even found this stuff, I would look for swagger in a horse. Like I want to see full body freedom. And I didn't know how to get it. I was always like, I want to do that, and they're rare occasions when you see somebody whose horse is fully embodied in the work. They're fully at peace with this, and some of the craziest stuff. Like I'll see swagger sometimes in a rodeo horse, like high tension, high pressure environment, and these horses just pack like just fully at peace in their being. And then I see the opposite as well. And so sometimes we get so stuck on seeing the opposite that we miss those moments. So that's what I want to create. I want to create swagger. So when you're feeling into the halter, you want to feel that tension. You want to be able to affect change. And this is why we do it in motion. Motion helps the horse kind of unlock the body and negotiate it. And that's why it's so important that we don't get in there and start putting more pressure on if we feel it. Like if we feel the tension, it's actually, you're supposed to sit with it. Essentially, your horse's therapist in that moment. You're not supposed to give them the answer. You're just supposed to sit with it and let them process it. So we set them up for success. So first is down and forward. We put a little bit of feel onto the halter and we get curious about, is your horse locked up at the base of the neck? Can they release at the base of the neck? Can they move their shoulders? Then we go down and around. So I'll break that down a little bit more. Spend a lot of time in the down and forward at first. Spend some time just assessing your horse and wait until you feel a sense of freedom, and literally wait in it until your hand, like the rope softens and the horse just follows your hand. So that takes some time, and some horses, to unlock them that way, I mean, I've literally walked around my arena for 45 minutes just doing that in both directions and never even accessing any laterality in the horse, just seeing if they can free up. And then when they get there, this is the most important part, let them process. There's like a nervous system regeneration that kind of happens in that moment. Their eyes roll back, they lick and chew, all the common signs of like them just kind of regulating down into their space. And so that's a big one, just making sure to take the step by step, not just kind of flying through this process. Because again, this is not a thing you just do. You're not just doing a thing, right? There's a deep feeling for it. Dixie, to kind of circle back to her, what I found lovely is like they're so honest with you when you do let them get to that state of peace and equilibrium. I mean, she was just like it was like her little mind was blown. She's like, "Oh my goodness, my body gets taken into account. I don't have to compromise and just go." Like it's a really cool process to be a part of. And so just like again, that's my one warning is take your time.
Yeah.
Once they can, huh?
Sorry, can I interrupt?
Of course.
I have so I've been thinking about Dixie a lot, and if any of you go to my website, there's a new banner photo across the top because I did a photo shoot with the horses and I got all these beautiful photos I want to show. And that picture, I hate it, except it's the only one that shows them all. And if you look at that picture, you don't have to do it right now, but Dixie's eye is half closed. Now, partly she had just rolled in the dirt. You can see dirt all over her, but her eye is half closed. And Hawk, the buckskin in the background, is like got no neck. Like he looks like you photoshopped the photo wrong
Yeah.
because he's just like moving. And anyways, what I was wanting to say about that is Dixie always did everything with her eyes half open. In a state of like, I want to say like tension and you
Mhm.
know, a state of if that could be a thing.
Yeah.
And what I've noticed now is her eyes are wide open and they are soft.
Mhm.
And I didn't really even understand that until I was looking at my website to edit it the other day. And I realized, I'm like, oh, I chose a picture where Dixie's eye is closed. I might have to go change that.
Yeah.
But I don't have one because her eye looks like that in all of them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like if you're so tense in your body, you have to squint your face. And like I can relate to this because when I get tense, my shoulders come up
Yeah.
and I just carry all my tension here. And this is how I maneuver through life. And I'm like, oh my gosh, my poor horse has had her eyes closed for forever, for her whole life. And
Mhm.
now they're soft and they're big, beautiful brown eyes.
Yeah. She's
So
very
anyways,
honest. You know, the old cowboy saying, like, the eyes are the window to a horse's soul, I think is absolute. That is like such a big piece for me, except for I don't discount when I see the tension and the brace in the eye. I don't discount it. I get excited that I can help a change. So the old thing was, well, when you saw that, it's stay away from that horse because it's been traumatized, it's got problems. Now I'm like, I'm coming to help. Let's see if I can help you,
that's
right?
that's actually true. All the horses you're gonna get that you send me all have problems. You seem to be drawn to those ones. I get it. I was there with you for a long time. I'm just a recovering addict right now. I'm a few months sober from not collecting broken
Collecting.
horses.
Yeah. Well, and
Yeah.
that's it. So it's like the craziest thing though, and this is why it's so important. It's like I used to take on the horses, and then I realized the problem was I wasn't able to actually help them long run if I can't help the owners find feel, if I can't help the owners connect with their horses. So for me, it's more important. I think this is why it's so cool, and kudos to you too for bringing this into your course for the foot, because of course the foot is attached to the whole horse, right? But as soon as the owners become empowered to kind of go down this process, and what I think is super important to remember too is like this stuff's going to help you at all levels of the game. We don't get to have a step-by-step process of how some of the pros get there. They tell us the things to do, but we don't put the time in that they've put in to develop the feel. And there's even a lot of pros out there, and it's not bashing them. I always say people know what they know, and that's all they know, right? Like, until they do know better, they can do better. And so I think that, it's so important if you can get into really getting a sense of your horse, like the sky's the limit in athletic potential for your horse and you. And who wouldn't want to set their horse free? Like I want my horses to have full excited expressions of free motion in their body and then go do crazy things with them. I want to go move cows and I want to go do the classical work and I want to go and just I want to experience life and I want them to do it. And so it's so important that we can get through these blocks and not get stuck in them. But yeah, anyways, back
Yeah,
to
that's awesome. Sorry,
roundabout.
I threw us off track. You were just finishing your
We're
coverage of
going
down
in.
and forward.
It's okay. It's my ADHD kicking in. Thanks, guys, for being patient with me. Um, All right. So as the horse goes down and forward, now the cool thing is when you're releasing the horses forward, I have a Lusitano mare who actually doesn't drop her head. If I drop her head too far forward, she'll almost plant on her face. So biomechanically, the Lusitanos are some of the Iberians, the Arabs. There's a few other horses, Frisians, that are already built so uphill. So their down is not to the ground. It's it's where is their down now, and can they release? Can you release down and forward? Hawk would be, I wish we would have taken pictures of him because he came with a neck about this short. And when he left, he looked like a Lusitano. Like he had a big scoping open neck, was open through his thoracic and was able to actually mobilize his body effectively.
Well, I
The,
have lots of old video of him moving
okay.
that I will I'll get something together to show that difference because it's quite
His was
staggering.
dramatic. Yeah. And then what happens is they develop swagger, but then they're kind of like a toddler when they don't have all of these muscular systems that are kind of blocking them into this tense body. They'll have freedom and swagger in their motion, but then they'll stumble a lot. They'll be all over the place because they have to rebuild an entire new way of being in their bodies. And that'll actually translate. I've seen it translate into the field as well. So horses will come you'll do the work with them, and as they get stronger, their confidence in their own biomechanical squareness kind of comes into play, and they'll engage in the field more, they'll move that way more. Just as much as I've seen horses that have kind of been ridden into tension go out into the field, even with tons of room to move around, and just perpetuate that tension over years and years and years. So yeah, this again, off track, back to it. As we work on the down and forward and finding where your horse's down and forward is, you can then go down, forward, and around, which essentially all you do is you tip your hip into the horse's shoulder. And literally, this is not like the feedback you get is what you get. So most people will want to tip their hip into the shoulder, and when your horse runs into you, they'll want to get harder, get them out of your space. Don't. It's just honest feedback. They can't laterally open themselves up. And so what I'll do is I'll stay in the motion. You kind of go into this bumping movement if they energetically lock up a bit, because usually it does when they kind of go into discomfort. I'll maybe use the flag, just wave it real slow, depending on your horse's ability to handle pressure. I won't just flap it. It's not about making them go lateral or move their shoulder out. It's literally about bringing the energy up in their body and letting them be okay in the thing. That's why I don't shift anything about my body. I stay in the work until I feel my horse free up and come around my body in the circle. So you have video for all of this too, hey? It's kind of
Yeah, that first session where you coached me through working with Dixie, I think covers a lot of that. I don't like
yeah.
we didn't necessarily break it down as you telling me to do that, but that is what we were doing.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. So
Heather had asked down and forward. Does that equal head dropped and walking forward? And that's a great question because if you
mm,
had told 5 or not 5, 2 years ago me to bring them down and forward, I'd have pulled their head down and dragged them forward.
yeah,
So maybe just clarify that
clarify
just a
that.
little.
So yes, this is the same thing with the Lusitano mare. Some horses, you'll feel it in their body. They'll kind of shuffle forward real fast. You're dragging them down and forward. So that's maybe a moment I'm not going to engage the flag. I want them to actually carry themselves. There's a sense of as you're asking the horse to engage, I like to envision, and this is where feel comes in because I'm not watching everything the horse is doing. I'm literally allowing I'm allowing my mind and my body to connect with the rope and kind of fill in the blanks. And so for me, what I envision is a bowling ball inside my horse's body. If they're going down and forward and we're dragging, that bowling ball is going to slam forward and it's going to be right at the front. But my job is actually, where do I find the center of the mass of the horse to help them learn how to move in balance and find that bowling ball? And so this is how you're going to be able to tell, like my Lusitano mare, her down and forward is like actually more out and forward. It's not down. Some horses, to really unlock the built-in tension, you actually have to encourage them to come down and forward. So again, keeping in mind that there's going to be a very distinct feeling of them plowing into the ground as opposed to like releasing at the base of the neck. I have thoracic outlet syndrome, so this this is a pretty big deal, that I'm learning as well for the human body. But yeah, they have to physically release and yet still keep equilibrium in their body. That's why when you get that release, you will always get an honest response from your horse. Like their little minds are blown because most horses have been taught to ride or move in their body and compromise their own balance. Not very many horses, and this is where Christy has the grace of developing Hawk kind of from the ground up, get to learn from the foundation that we're not going to steal your balance no matter what. Like balance is a holy, sacred space that we do not affect. We will utilize our balance, but we will never steal it away from them. And that's what we often end up doing with them. And that compromises them for a flight animal that's used to being able to, that needs their balance and equilibrium to stay alive in nature. That's a big deal. It means a lot to them. So when you take the time to reset that system for them, it's pretty big process for them. But yeah, so that was a great question. If that answered it. Did it?
Did that
I'm
answer
not
your
sure.
question?
My one example, like I've been just hand walking my horse in the arena. She is quite tense, like ridden. But
Yeah.
what I've noticed when I'm just trying to do the most basic groundwork ever and just to walk her because she doesn't have a huge paddock. She does relax. Like she's a quarter horse. She's built on the forehand. She's dropping her head. Like I'm trying to like, is it that like with her, for example, we're trying to get her, is it like long, low forward, getting her relaxed and like, that swagger you're talking about, like the trunk swinging, like, and give her long enough until she like kind of gets to that point. I don't know. Trying to understand
Yeah. Well,
with it.
yeah, that's a great question. That's a great question. So quarter horses, because they're kind of built downhill, the long and low is actually, they tend to already, depending on the quarter horse, if they're already traveling long and low, you already have some semblance of release through the base of their neck, as opposed to like Dixie, for example, she's like said, kind of wears her neck on backwards. She couldn't even, like her neck was totally inverted and she was like braced through here, through her chest. Um, so for your horse, if she's already there, you're probably likely ready to kind of move on to the next step with her. Like if you can get her long and released, it's not even science, and I wouldn't dig into it too much. I would just go, okay, well, here's the cool part. When you now go laterally and you put your hip into her shoulder and see if she can go down and around you, this is then what's going to give you a clue of if you had it solid in the first place with the down and forward, if that makes sense. Because she'll lock up in her neck right away. Like she'll lock up and she'll run into your hip as you're walking into her. So sometimes the point of this exercise is not necessarily like some horses I get actually have quite a free shoulder, but then are super locked up in the back. And that's then everything kind of falls apart. So you have to go back, recollect the shoulder, the lateral part, which we'll build into. Sorry, I don't want to try to make this not too confusing. But yeah, so I would say step into the next activity, which is the down, forward, and around. Can she move freely laterally on the circle? Can she bow her shoulder around you and walk calmly without kind of falling apart? And then feeling if it's a jilted motion, that'll also tell you. So if you're walking and she kind of like, she frees up for a second, then jams up and frees up and jams up, that's kind of a normal process they kind of go through initially. And what you want to feel is you want to be able to do like, let's just say half a circle or even a whole circle where she can just freely just be in flow and move with you lightly. Oh, there's a question.
And just one more thing. To clarify, this is not lunging, you're just walking like with them. Okay.
No, no.
One thing that helped me visualize this, like that bowling ball analogy Mary said, oh my gosh, I have to keep that in my brain all the time. I can't remember which horse it was, if it was Dixie or somebody else. It might have been Tango, but one of them, when I asked for that down and forward, like I felt like, let's just say we were on ice and they were sliding ahead of me. Like as soon as I said down and forward, I started struggling to keep up with the horse. That was not releasing tension. That was the horse trying to avoid releasing the tension. Like, yes, I'll put my head down and I will go forward, but I'm gonna fall and like bolt. I think I even said, I'm like, look, he's bolting to Mary. I think you were here. I can't even remember, but it was like in a really controlled, super soft way, but it's still avoiding the process. And it's like the bowling ball just came crashing through the front end.
Yeah.
And my tendency was to hurry myself, which is not the answer. It was like, just stay there and kind of keep going and turn my body so they weren't running away from me, and recalibrate to find that piece. That was, I think until you really feel that, you won't really understand. But it was all of a sudden they were running away from me
Yeah.
at the walk.
That's why I say you're kind of like your horse's therapist. Like you sit in it, you don't change yourself to accommodate their motion. You stay consistent. So you pick a tempo. And this is where the feel part comes in because there's a lot going on. You have to be consistent within your body and also kind of, we call it reaching into the tension, like you're putting a feel into the rope and you're envisioning what's happening in the body in your mind as you're doing it. So this is, like I said, it's a little, sounds a little woo woo until you're in there, but, or until you've really seen this, the effect of how this plays out with horses. So what I wanted to say to, I forgot your name, Heather. What I want to say to you when you ask, it's like you're walking with your horse, you do this on like initially, depending on your horse, you do this on like a 10, 15, 20 meter circle, walking on the circle with your horse. The reason the circle gives us it kind of sets the horse up for the bend to free up the tension. And then the other thing is don't be surprised when you run into the tension on the other side. This can be used both to release mental tension and physical, like as a therapeutic process to release physical issues in the body for horses. So horses that have had injuries on one side, like I've seen horses come back to full work after this stuff. It's just about recalibrating the body to be free and limber in both sides. And as a rider, this is why I think it's so important for all people learn how to be connected with your horse, because if you want to advance in your riding anywhere, like most good riding comes from not just doing the thing over and over again. It comes from being connected with yourself, understanding what's happening. When is your horse moving its leg? Why is it braced in this side? How do you affect softness in that? That's how we can all develop. And I would like to say this is going to sound awful because I'm not bashing anybody who spent 25 years on a 20 meter circle doing walk trot transitions, because I've been down the road, for example, in dressage or whatever. I've been in the motion to drill things, but we would be advancing riders dramatically faster if they had an opportunity to really learn to be connected within themselves and to be able to feel the things in their horses. But instead, we kind of get hung up on doing of the thing that we miss the moments we should be releasing, we should be softening, we should be, or maybe working on something totally different. So anyways, that's another Mary tangent for another day. Sorry.
Okay, so Brianne asked a question. She's at the barn with her horse right now. She says she uses a touch pole to help her drop her head and walk, but she's not sure it's the same. And so my first thought with that is, like, I don't think that's a bad thing, but a touch pole is a cue, which is no different than saying, put your head down, which is, to me, in my new understanding, very different than soften.
Yeah. Yeah. So a touch pole is fantastic. I actually think more people should do work with touch poles and doing a lot of like the free liberty stuff with getting the horse to engage that way. But it doesn't let you as the rider or the handler necessarily reach into the tension and really help free it up for your horse. So your horse can reach down and forward and it can touch something, but then can you go down, forward, and around? Can it sustain it? If you're utilizing a touch pole and you feel confident your horse is doing it, there's nothing wrong with it. You could continue. But for me, when I go into, let's say, this is also developing my feel as a rider. So later on, when you're riding your horse and you're connecting with a rein, your reins are actually, this goes into the riding thing. Sorry, Christy.
No?
Kind of going on that tangent. Your rein is not there to turn the horse. Your reins are not there to stop your horse. Your reins are there to give you an immediate feedback to how your horse's body is doing biomechanically. We don't teach people that. We learn how to tug on things and how to do things. And that's why a lot of people go to the free liberty stuff, is because you can create effect and change and freedom in your horses. but it
I'm
doesn't
sorry, I need to interrupt. I think
yeah,
I need you to print me a poster
yeah,
that says the reins are not to turn and stop your horse. It's to feel immediate feedback for your horse's biomechanics.
yeah.
Um,
And
that
mental and mind.
that is like mind blowing. Because I know, I was the first to tell people if you need a rein to stop your horse, you have a problem. But I still thought I could use my reins to stop the horse.
Well, and
To
you
turn
can't
the
like we
horse.
call it, I think Josh says, he says it's like 90, it's the 5% of the time. It's like the
Yeah,
5% of the time when you're gonna die. Yes,
use your reins.
absolutely. Utilize your reins. But like, man, when you can start to set your horse up biomechanically and suddenly it's turning and you've spent years, this is where I was anyways. I spent years. I had a super downhill paint mare who would just plow into the ground. And I was like, I was a dressage rider and I'd done classical dressage and I'd worked a lot of Iberians and warm bloods that were built for the sport. And I was like, this little quarter horse, I'll just use her for trail rides. She's not going to be able to dressage. Like I was such a snob, you know. I really, really, I was, and it was so humbling that I realized I spent most of my years riding a horse to do things, and then when I set her up for biomechanics, that horse danced better than any of my Iberian horses that I had mechanically made to do things. Like she could sit and carry herself and I would literally just shift my shoulder and we would be going laterally and turning and we're moving around. And I think that's the thing. So kind of circling back again, so I don't leave. Is it Brienne who asked the question?
Yeah, she's added, but finish your
Okay.
thought.
Okay. Here. Yeah, either which way. But you know, I think kind of circling back to that, that's why I would, the touch pull can work. You can get the horse to bend, you can get them to stretch down and forward, you can get them to utilize their body in a certain way. But I still love to be connected to my horse because it develops my feel. And sometimes a horse can do something out of being obedient and they can do it and still kind of hang into the tension. And I've seen this a lot with when I was doing stunt work with my horses. I could not make them do the things. It's more organic, like, but they would get a cookie for it. And cookies in themselves create a little bit of a mental tension on them that I found. And so they would do a thing, but they weren't quite okay in their body, where this is a lot more personal. This is about kind of like reaching in and going, hey, you're kind of like a friend, right? It's like, you know, it's like me looking at Christy and, you know, being like, hey, how's your
Yeah.
day? Like, it's like reaching in a little bit more with your horse. So I hope that, what it was the, I can't see the
Yeah,
question.
so then she added, that makes sense. No, she doesn't really hold her head down on her own. But when we ride, she actually drops her head more than when she's turned out. And so I wanted to add to that, like, just because a horse has their head down does not mean they're soft. And that's the piece of this that I think is hard to wrap your head around. It's not about the down, it's about the soft. The down is just sort of the vessel in which we can use to help find it. But like Tango is a great example. Like that horse will drop her face on the ground. And when I'm riding, she is so low. In fact, the first time I rode her, I just giggled because her head was missing, and because it was so low down. I'd never ridden a horse like that. Um, but that is not free of tension and brace. I actually have to encourage Tango to come back up. And Hawk, he will root and try to rip the reins out of my hand to lower his head. That is not free of tension. In fact, that's more tension than when I have his head a little bit higher.
Yeah.
So I do think we could touch on that. And then Brianne just said, maybe I missed this by joining late, but do you pull the lead rope down a bit as you walk to signal them to drop and then release when they drop? So I think when you say, I think we should clarify this down
Yeah,
piece
these are great
because
questions.
yeah, you say down and forward, but it's
Yeah.
not really about the down.
It's actually not about the down. There's a thought that you're putting a feel into the rope to go down, and it's not even a pull. It's like I literally let my hand rest on the rope to go down and forward. What you want to feel is you want to feel a scoping of the neck. You don't want to feel them dropping the neck, and the scoping of the neck will happen without them losing their squareness in their body. And this is where the bowling ball feeling comes in. because some horses, like I said, my Lusitano mare is actually forward. If I put too much pressure down with her, I steal her balance and she kind of face plants and, like Christy said, will run off with me. Whereas this is more about feeling into the tension. Can you release them forward? And we use down because a lot of horses are so stuck and jammed up in their neck, like here, that this is like, it's a novelty for them to actually be able to release the pressure of their neck. But yeah. Oh, hi. Oh my goodness, she's beautiful.
Oh.
Your horse is lovely.
Yeah, sorry, I wasn't trying to. I just am walking her, so I was like, I don't know if the visual is helpful, but
Totally. Love that. And she's a halflinger, so that's
yes.
partial to halflingers. So yeah, so even if you put a feel onto the knot underneath her halter, can you do that? Just even hook your finger into the side of her halter. And just start walking with her. And start walking on like a 15-meter circle. And so if she, here's actually stop for a second. Here, this is actually a great thing to add in. So walk and think about walking and engaging her energetically to walk. So if you have to pull her forward, she's going to fall, and she actually sets herself up into a bit of a forward dive. So you want to energetically. So this is where if you had a flag or something, just to activate the space. And again, I'm not saying like get after her, just like I kind of really smoothly bring it up and down just to see if she can stay with me. Yeah, nice and calm, get her relaxed. And then, so this is even when they start to rush a little bit, that's the tension. So that is tension engaging right there. So you just stay in it and you keep your body consistent. So I kind of always think I want my horse to find me energetically. I want them, and I do this in riding. I'm like, come find me. I want my horse to hunt where I am, not to evade me because I'm like a negative pressure all the time. I want them to be like, oh, I want to be there if I move over to one side. So you keep a steady pace and you stay super calm and grounded in your being. And you just kind of have that feel in the rope. Does your hand brace and bob up and down with tension, or can you affect change and get her to release and move forward? What do you feel?
My hand is moving up and down a little bit because she's bobbing, although now she actually stopped bobbing for a second there.
Yeah.
And so it seemed like, but she's slowing a little bit. So.
And she might need to, so slow with her a little bit. So this is like, slow with her. If she goes to stop, you engage the flag a little bit. But you want to feel that release, not that bracing walk, right? And they'll do that. They'll go to trot off. They will slam.
Yeah, her halter was kind of like bouncing up against my hand even when then she was first walking, but now it's not doing that. Like my finger's just resting in it.
Yeah.
And I can.
Yeah.
But
so
but it's definitely not super low.
Yeah. But she doesn't need to. So this is the thing with halflingers as well. They're actually built like little mountain ponies. So they are built a little bit more. They have a bit of a more upright shoulder as well. So they're not necessarily built to dive. Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah, no. And
just stop for a minute and love up on her. Just stop for a minute.
She doesn't like me to love up on her, but okay.
Yeah, that's okay. Okay. So even that, so she has love. There's like, we should do like a love language for horses thing. I'm sure it's out there already, but it's like, I have, and she's a little war horse. Like I can feel it already in her being, how they kind of engage. Little war horses, they're very serious. They like a very certain amount of pressure, and it needs to be very clean. So like my Lusitano mare, if I go up and I'm like, oh, good girl, and I get too frisky with my movement, she'll eat me. But if I I almost think when I pet her, I want to reach, because I'm not going to avoid petting her, but I want to reach into her body and slowly slide my hand down, if that makes sense. Sorry.
She's searching for treats too, because we were doing touch pull training with the pellets. So that's why she's reaching for everything right now. So
that's okay. That's okay. She's lovely. But yeah, I hope that kind of enlightened some.
That is helpful. I didn't want to overtake everything. Sorry for the noise, but
no,
the visual is helpful.
100%. 100%. Now I'll give you some quick homework, and that kind of leads into kind of advancing on the body mapping stuff. Is what you could start to do now is you can turn your body into her, like turn sideways and put your hip into her shoulder and see if she can bend down and around. And you're looking for the same feel. You're looking for that. Again, for her, it won't be down. It'll be more kind of slightly down and over. You're almost bringing her nose kind of forward in front of your belly button, and see if she can still hold that consistent track on the on your walking circle. And then you're looking for that same feel. Can her shoulders go laterally without bumping into you? And have that softness. And you're going to work into it until you kind of melt that feeling into the work you're doing. So it's hard to see, but are you going?
Yeah, sorry. I'm trying. You said push hip in, but then her nose toward my belly. So I'm wanting to actually turn
Yeah, so bring
her toward like this direction toward me, but stick my hip to try to open her up.
Yeah, but you're still going to travel. Your body is going to travel almost sideways with her, laterally on the circle. So you're going to keep your circle. And this is where the honesty comes in, because your horse is literally going to run into your hip a few times. So bring her nose around your front a little bit more, guide her around the front, and just stay in that. See how she bumps you? That's okay. Stay in it. You just stay in that motion until she kind of finds peace and equilibrium, but you stay consistent on your 15, set your track of where you want to work. 15
I
meters,
can feel her.
20-meter circle.
I can feel her trying to shift out away from me after she bumped me 3 times.
Yeah, and you feel that tension in the halter. See how she's kind of bobbing on you again?
Yep.
So just work in that until that frees up. And when you find it, carry it right away. So the other mistake that we tend to make in horsemanship is, as soon as we find release, we give the horse release, you know, and maybe the first time, I'll give you grace on the first time, but we actually want to release the horses into engagement. Like, this is the biggest thing this is why people get stuck in a lot of different levels of riding, is because we think that the horse did something, we should release it. And then the horse thinks, oh, I should find release in this. But it's like, no, man, I want you to feel peace and release and engagement. Like, I want you to release into the activity, you know, and that comes from your beingness when you're riding as well.
So this kind of reminds me of, like, I didn't do a lot of it, but just like doing the TRT stuff. He's like, he does static though. He's like, touch the horse, let the horse feel their like tension. So, but you're doing more like dynamic, kind of letting them kind of get some confidence, responsibility for their body. Is it kind of similar, kind of thinking along those lines?
Very similar. It's all the same, especially with the TRT stuff, because he's essentially, and I think he's building his program out to this, because this is how he's been starting to advance his horses as well. Like, even in the riding, what happens, I think static is helpful. And that's what I kind of said at the beginning too. Static is very helpful, but motion is lotion, and it'll give you the most honest feedback, because sometimes a horse will drop the head, but they can drop the head because they're being obedient, but they can't drop the head, loosen the neck, engage the shoulders, and then engage the hip because they're being obedient. And so this is where motion gives us a more honest feedback of where the horse is packing tension. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I just had a thought. So a horse can sometimes, I think, like, they could probably have tension slowing down too, right? Like, they could like, my horse, for example, like, I think she hates being lunged. Like, I tried to lunge her one day. She'll walk forward with me when I'm walking with her, like this stuff. I just occasionally try to lunge her because it seems like that's how I was trained to lunge horses, blah, blah. But she hates it. I try to lunge her, and you can see her eyes squinch up, her back feet are dragging. I'm like, she turns lame. Like, she, on the circle, like, really just slows down to like a slug. And I'm like, oh, she hates this. We're not going to do this. I think because she's probably been pushed through too many things in the past lunging. But it's like,
I've never seen your horse, so I can't say definitively exactly what, but I suspect most lunging is done in a way that steals the horse's balance. And so there's a few different things you could do if you do want to engage. Lunging can be done well, and it can be done well in a way that you can biomechanically support your horse's growth and body. But I suspect it's probably when she's engaging, what'll happen, especially, do you lunge her off a bridle? Do you lunge her in a halter, rope halter?
Tried a bridle and a halter either. Yeah.
Yeah, so what'll usually happen is you clip to the inside, and what'll happen with the horses is they'll clip to the inside, it'll draw the jaw to the side this way, and it actually throws their whole body out of balance. And they'll hate lunging because you're stealing the balance from them. So what you could try if you wanted to do it is I usually almost predominantly work my horses once they're in a state of safety. Obviously, if I'm starting a new horse, I'll work them in a rope halter, but I'll predominantly work them in a cavesson that affects a different type of flexion. And you'll likely see a dramatic difference in your horse. The trick is to have a cavesson that actually fits well and doesn't slide and doesn't just still kind of do the same thing. So I have one that has a firm, it looked rough. I still want to put wool on it. Because I'm a weenie, even though I know sometimes creating too much softness gives too much, it actually is less soft. It's more about how we're using the tool. But either which way, it just creates a proper flexion, and then how you engage the body. So there's a whole method to lunging that you can help her free tension. So essentially what we're doing with the body mapping in hand on a small circle, you can do that in a lunge rope too. And maybe that's a whole another conversation. So I'm sorry, Christy. Back
Oh,
to
I love this because it all ties in. Like I sit here like, I've seen so much video of Brienne's horse. I'm going to use that because she was so great in our demo, like impromptu demo here to show
Yeah.
that. I've seen video of her, June, the horse moving, and we constantly talk about that horse not landing on her heels and all of these things. And then to get to watch Brienne right there in those moments, butt up against that tension, like I never would have understood that before. And I still would have been like, well, I don't know, try a different boot. Like, because that's what our brain knows. And now I watch that and I'm like, oh my gosh, actually, I feel like you said, Mary, um, earlier, instead of being like discouraged, I am so excited for Brienne
curious.
because I'm like, there's tension there. That
Mhm.
is super exciting because that means you have something to release and work on in order to move forward. Whereas if you had just showed us June and she had been like butter in your hands, I'd have been like, ah, crap. Well, what are we going to do now? The horse isn't landing on her heel. Well, now you have a definitive something to go
Yeah.
and explore and learn and do whatever you want with it and see if we can peel some layers off. And then we can come at those feet with a renewed sense. Like
Yeah.
that to me is why I wanted to talk about this because we can put whatever pads in whatever boots and you could make June wear them forever for the rest of her life. And if we can't release that tension in her body, it's not going to matter. And
Mhm.
I don't even just mean June or want to pick on you. I mean that for Dixie. I
Yeah.
have tried everything for Dixie. I have tried every version of composite shoes and boots and pads and wedges and packing and trim, anything I can do for that horse. And
Yeah.
I can't make her land on her heels. And so, for me, it's in this work. So I just love this whole conversation.
Well, the cool thing about this is if you get curious and you find tension, there's something for you to release, or it'll direct you exactly to where there is maybe a real physical impairment. Because if you work on this and you can create freedom in all other parts of the body, but one part is still very actively stuck. And here's the coolest thing. It doesn't matter. I've seen horses with full-on kissing spine and all types of things. You can still, through this balance work, help them find equilibrium and motion so that they can still live a super long, effective life and be sound and functioning so I think that you get curious about it and you reach into the tension, and the more you touch horses in general in this way, the more you can start to pull out things. So maybe there is a physical issue with the foot, but if you put shoes on and pads on and that's not changing, let's see if we can release the tension somewhere else. And if you get in there and they're like, okay, well, maybe it's actually something more physical. Maybe it does have kissing spine, or maybe it does have some other issue. You can still utilize this activity as a way to create release in the rest of the body so that they can continue actually getting stronger. They may never be 100% sound or 100% heel first landings, but you can affect change. I've seen every single horse, and I will stand on this. Every single horse I've taken the time to feel into, I can dramatically affect change. Can I make them, the next Olympic show jumper sound? Well, and that I'm not even gonna go there. You know what I mean? Like, no, but
Nor
I
do we want to.
can,
Well,
right?
I think that's awesome. Okay, I want to keep us on track because we are eating up Mary's afternoon. Okay, we talked a little bit about down and forward. We talked down and lateral. Can you just quickly touch on the hind end before we
I
move
love how
on
you
from
said
body
that.
mapping?
You know me so well. Just
Quickly, Mary.
fill it in, Yeah, so down forward, and once your horse is free through the shoulder, you can actually, it's kind of like you can access the hind end by turning, you'll turn deeper. So that down forward and around, you'll turn deeper. I'll even go to as like, can you reach back and see the hip out of the corner of your eye? And can your horse release that hip laterally? So that will be down forward and reaching into the back. And so in the whole time, you're allowing, as you're doing this activity, you're allowing your brain to stay connected with the feel in the rope and to be curious. And the curiosity is like my favorite term to use. Just get curious, because as soon as you start trying to think too much about it, you're going to try to want to affect change. And it's not about affecting change or making them do it. It's sitting into it until they can find their own change, find their own release. So, and that'll access the hip. So yeah, you kind of turn deeper and kind of glance at the hip. Now, the other thing is with that activity is you build on these. So eventually I can reach into all my horses before I even get on to ride and just touch on every one of these, both directions, before I get on my horses, whether they're sound or braced or, heel first landings and doing fine. It's a great way to engage your horse to figure out where they are.
Theoretically, you could reach in and do this at the walk, trot, and canter. And I say theoretically because I can reach into hawk and do this at the walk and the trot, and I can do all three of those yields on both sides, but I cannot yet dream of thinking about having that freedom at the canter like that.
Well, because there's also like strengthening that has to happen for him to be able to release at that gate. So right now, this level of stuff is more therapeutic and more just assessing. So you're curious. And then as you develop into these things, if you want to advance it into athleticism, there's a whole new process of, I use, again, the feel in my rope, how I engage with my rope, the connectivity of the rope to give me the feedback on where the tension is. And you can totally do this in a rope halter. I'd just be mindful if you're doing this on a circle from a lunging standpoint where you're facing the horse, be mindful of how your pressure affects the tilt of the head. And that's what I mean with the rope is it'll tend to pull them into you like this. This is where I'll use a caveston's my favorite. And then you can release tension in your horse's whole body through this same activity. And once the horse knows the goal is to find peace and equilibrium, they like hunt it down. You can't stop the change. You just have to let them, and they have to feel free and empowered to find their own balance. And then you can take it into the riding. This will take you up to whatever level of riding you desire to achieve. If even creating a solid trail horse, or if you want to go and master some crazy skill, like the sky's the limit if you help them find their balance and release.
That is very cool. Okay, I think mostly we covered what I had on my list, and I don't want to open up any more major topics that are in that direction. But do you have anything else you want to cover, Mary, before I ask for questions?
You know what? We'll leave it there because you know me. I can run a tangent with all of this, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, I will ask them in a second, but I also made a list. Not so much as a question, but I wanted to say, like, as I've been doing this work, and specifically with Dixie, there's a few feelings I really don't like, and that I've had to talk myself into or talk about in my brain. And like one of them was like, initially when I first started body mapping, maybe not even with her, using that flag, like you said, to reach into the space, I had to first come to terms with the fact that all pressure doesn't mean move forward. So I do think that's an important piece to think about. Like if your horse thinks that every stick, whip, flag, apparatus in your hand means, oh my gosh, run now, you're going to struggle. So we first have to redefine that relationship with that tool. I did anyway, because back in my thought, like in my Pirelli land days, whatever I want to call it, it was like, I will lift my stick, you will move. If you don't move, I'm going to bring my stick down. And this is how I rationalized it. I wasn't hitting my horse. I was hitting the spot and the horse was still there. Absolutely. I still maintain that. I'm not like thinking I was horribly abusive to my horse. However, I totally missed out on that tool. I could have used it for so many more things, having not just used it like that. The other thing I don't like that I've had to work through is the pull on the rope. Like you'll see in some of the videos with Dixie, as I'm moving her around, I'm having to hold that rope and she's pulling on it, like traditional lunging more so than like that balance and connection on a circle. I think Josh calls it the mind space balance. But like now, and so when I was first starting Hawk, coming from lunging or circling Pirelli, I did all this close in stuff and then I wanted to send him out, but I couldn't because every time I'd send him out and he'd get more than 3 or 4 feet from me, we would lose that connection that we had built and he would start bending out and pulling on the rope. And so I kept bringing him in and I thought, oh my gosh, like I'm never going to be able to circle this horse. I'm going to be doing these little 4-foot circles forever. And now he can walk, trot, and almost canter 12 feet out on the line with that bend and flexion. And I literally don't have to close my hand on the rope. But back in the beginning, I didn't see the light at the end of that tunnel and I didn't understand how to get there. And it didn't mean letting the rope go every time. It meant I held a boundary with my rope and I worked through all of this stuff until that came. So for me, that was a really fundamental piece. That's kind of why I wanted to highlight these things because they might be pieces for some of you that you think you're doing wrong or you don't understand. That was a big piece. And the work with Dixie, the one piece that really bothers me when I watch those videos back is how much bend she has in her neck and how she's blowing out that outside shoulder. And she's soft and we're doing the thing like the softening, bending, lateral. And I am telling myself, and maybe Mary, you have to tell me if I'm correct, because I'm telling myself that's not a big deal right now. Right now, the softness is the goal. And once we achieve the softness, we will be able to restore that balance. It's through the softness we will find it. So it's okay that that's happening because I know a lot of like traditional people might watch that video and be like, she's way overbent and falling out. Why don't you put some side reins on and fix that? And like, that would be totally counterproductive to this exercise because this exercise is about softness, not fixing that shoulder. Is that correct?
This exercise is horse led. Where does she have to put her body to feel release? And if her body has to contort itself into a pretzel at this point to fully release itself, that's where we're going to go, right? And so some horses, it's like some horses that much bend is too much, and that's where the bowling ball sensation will also affect it. If you feel like she's falling that way, or she's falling out of blowing out of that shoulder and falling out of it, then you can take her slightly straighter. So you can make your circle bigger so she's not totally bowing around you. I haven't seen the video, so I'd have to.
Challenge with making the circle bigger is she's also falling forward.
Yeah.
So I'm struggling to keep up with her. So inadvertently, I actually turn my body and make the circle smaller, but with a more lateral arc.
Yeah, you could. Yeah, you could. And you can totally affect and reach into the hindquarters a little bit quicker to find a bit more of a balanced equilibrium as well. Like you can totally do that. And kind of just briefly circling back to the whole renegotiating the whip and the energy that all pressure means forward. Think about it this way. If you really want to develop your horse into any type of like real connectivity, that forward comes off of an energetic intention, not the tool that you're using. And that equals your legs as well. Energetically engaging your intention. Like I used to have a struggle with this because I developed my old Trakehner when I'd ride him. I used to tell people, I'm like, think about flying. like take off, go fly. Because he had like the most beautiful, smoothest walk to canter, halt to canter you could possibly think of. And people would get on him and they couldn't even get him into a canter at all. And they would use their leg and put it in just the right place and apply just enough pressure or a lot of pressure. Or they would try all these things. So if you really want to connect and like really try to shift your mindset on that, is forward comes from energetic engagement, not from the tool you're using. The tool could amplify your intention, but it is not the thing that makes the horse move. Problem is, a lot of us have been using it as the thing that makes the horse move, whether it's leg or whip or whatever. And then the horses just think, okay, when something flaps, it means move. But it'll blow your mind how much your riding will change if you start using the tool as an extension to your intention.
Awesome. Yeah. I really thought I understood that. Like, it's funny, thinking back, I didn't realize I didn't know anything. That's how I feel now. I think back to all the times I thought I knew stuff, and I'm like, man, now the more I learn, the less I realize I know. It's just unbelievable. But okay, that was really awesome. I feel like, I hope we've at least established the tiny connection this has to Heal First Landings, even though we really haven't talked about feet. We have several slideshows in this classroom on caudal hoof failure and navicular and Heal First Landings in terms of like the hoof perspective, like what we can add or do or facilitate in the trim. And so that kind of is a different slideshow. I don't want to get into that with this, but you can look back for those in the monthly topics, whichever one the caudal failure was. I think there's 2 of them now. But okay, so any of you watching, do we have any questions? Amanda? I knew Amanda would have questions.
I always do. And this is a very rudimentary question, so I apologize. When I put my halter on my gelding, he's off the track. He will grow roots to China. And a lot of times I'll have to pull or wait or just walk perpendicularly just to try to encourage him to go. So I guess my thought is, when you're thinking intention, do you think in your mind forward, movement, flow, breathe? Like what internally do you think of when Mary's saying have an intention?
Yeah.
Without using an aid.
So I take it kind of to the next level. I'm a little bit of a weirdo because I have a vision in my head of what free motion looks like. I've ever since I was little, I would see horses moving and I'd be like, that horse is cantering backwards, even though it's cantering forwards, but there's like an energetic element to it. And so when I think about when I move intentionally, I want to like embody it in my body. And then I want to envision, and this sounds weird. Out of all of the years I've coached and trained people to make a horse move forward, the one piece I feel like has always made leaps and bounds is when people have like an unrealistic mental vision of what they're looking to achieve. It's like you kind of, it's not even that you're going to manifest it or this magic. It's like you pour that intention into your body. So when I think about when you want your horse to walk when he grows roots, first of all, I would be inclined to do some softening stuff with him with the halter, even getting him to bend around. And then I would try to maybe even take the energy sideways laterally for him, because sometimes what'll happen with a halter when people halter horses is that right away we go and you'll feel it. Actually, I see it all the time now. It's like abrupt tension. I see it when people take a line and it's like there's this brace, right? And now that I see it, I'm like, oh, I can help that, or that's feedback. But when you're doing something, you go, oh, he's stuck and we're going to make him move, But what he's likely concerned about is like, and again, I don't know your horse, so it's not a definitive answer, but likely what he's concerned about is that you're going to take his head away from him, take his body away from him just by pulling him forward. So when I think about moving forward, this is where I use the flag as well as an extension to my energy, is like, I think about moving and I'm like, I prepare my body to move and I'm like, and we're moving. And I don't go ahead. I don't pull on him. I don't even want to touch that rope. And Josh will say this lots too, because his job literally is to go and undo years of horses bracing into having their body taken away from them. And so there's very few horses in between that you get that have never had their body taken away. And so it's hard for us as humans because usually when you start with horses, you're already starting with a horse who's had their body compromised. And then you're taught by a trainer who's telling you to also move. And they're doing right. Like this is not bashing because I was that trainer for many years as well. So you don't really get a feel of what it means to be energetically engaged. But yeah, so if I reset that in a horse, I will exaggerate it. I'm sure people, luckily I live in the mountains. If I were at Christie's still, people would probably park on the side of the road and be like, what is wrong with her? But I'm like, I don't want my horse to move because I touched that halter. I want them to move because I'm moving. Because if you want your horse to be light off of your seat and light off of you, that's ground zero right there. If they can't do that, you're running into a brick wall on the saddle. You're running into the brick wall and everything else. So I want them to feel that. So I will engage my body. I will like sit into my haunches and I'm like, I want you to walk. And then I want to carry that walk and I'm going to keep engaging. So let's say I had the flag. I would move the flag behind me and I'm using this motion because it's not like a flapping. It's like motion. I would keep that intention in my body until my horse could find like free forward walk motion with me. And then I would walk, I would take a deep breath, take the pressure off of my intention and just walk with them. And that's releasing into free motion. It's like, I want you to find freedom in your body and then I want you to engage with me. And I'm not going to pester you when you're there. Like, we're just going to go. So if that makes sense.
Awesome. Any more questions?
You guys are so good to me.
I think Heather has a question. I saw you unmute anyway.
I just think it's really interesting stuff. Like it's just I'm just trying to compare to things I've experienced. Like so for example, again, sorry. My horse riding, the person I got it from, she's like, oh, she needs lots of legs, she needs a crop, blah, blah, blah. But I was working on, and this is, I think that you're almost like tapping into like the mindfulness thing. I think it's like being there, maybe making yourself feel bigger, like moving. And then so the only comparison I think is when I was riding, I'd be like, okay, there's this blue ball sitting in my belly. I'm here and I'm thinking I'm moving. Okay, we're gonna move, and then the horse would like start trotting. Like it's like, I don't know. It's like the subtleties in the body. Is that kind of what you're getting at? Like so it's a little bit of just energy changes as well. But like I don't know. It's the only way I can really compare it, I guess. That moment.
100%. So we're like monkey minds. We have lost track, and this is where it's like to us because we're such doers. We've lost track of being connected, like being authentic. Have you guys? Okay, so this is back. There's like a current study that's gone on for what is the most powerful frequency in the human body, like energetic frequency. And they've measured this scientifically with all of the instruments. And everybody thought it was love for a while, but it's actually authenticity. It's and not like, oh, you know how everybody's like, be authentic, throwing it around in like this whole new age way. It's like authenticity means that what you think and feel inside your mind and you translate it and allow it to flow out of your body. It's like it is a whole congruency piece. And so what we often forget and what we actually humans struggle with, and that's why I think relational horsemanship or connected horsemanship or just being in the moment with your horse, whatever you want to call it, is so addicting to people, is because it's probably one of the first and few places that we actually allow ourselves to be truly, when we do engage this way, to be truly authentic with what's flowing out of our minds and our body through our body, what's flowing out of our minds through our body. Horses and animals do this naturally. Like a mare doesn't have to come across the field to tell somebody she's pissed off at them, right? Like she can just turn and be like, and another horse will be like, oh, that's your pile of hay. I'll go over here, and so I think this is the part that you're totally right. It's like, you want to feel, and this is where I take it into the next thing when I'm riding, whether it's you're visualizing a blue ball, that's just a way for you to connect what you want to feel and express it through your body. Horses are built to read that. Animals, dogs are built to read that. That's their main form of language. We have this, which is good and bad sometimes because we can be really dishonest with it. With intention, it doesn't. And that's why people get stumped with horses. So when you're thinking about motion, I want to feel, what would it feel like in my body for the horse to be free? And then what do I have to do in my body to also be free? Because I want to feel that way too. And then when I'm looking for a transition, I'm like, we are going somewhere. And then often, then this is again the challenge is oftentimes you're riding horses or working with horses who've already been humanized. Like they've already started shutting down their ability to stay engaged energetically. And so then you have to have so much conviction that it overrides their blocks. You have to be like, we are really going somewhere and you're coming with me, right? And then kind of following through on that. So, there's a lot more biomechanic pieces too. If when you start in using your leg more, you actually brace certain parts of your body. So you're building attention in to create flow, where there is a bit of an art to create free forward motion. I'm trying so hard, Christy. Anyways, I'm sorry. If does that make sense without me going off on a tangent? Is that all helpful?
I think that is super helpful. Like, so Heather, my interpretation, like Hawk doesn't like to move forward. And I wrote him this morning and without Mary here to babysit me, which is a big deal. And so, I'm trying to move and I'm sitting up there and I literally have to recalculate or calibrate my brain because before I realize it, my legs are squeezing too hard and I'm wishing him forward, right? And you can't wish him forward. He is 1,200 pounds of no freaking way. And so I got to stop wishing. And I had to be like, I'm going, I'm getting ready. Like, here I am, I'm prepared, I'm thinking it, I'm going. And then I'm going to cluck and I'm going to squeeze my legs and I'm going to flap my string. And he didn't go. And so I'm sitting up there going, but I'm going and I'm free. And then I'd be like,
Okay.
okay. And then I'm like, no, that's okay. No big deal. I'm going to prepare to go again. And then I did the whole thing again and felt like a complete moron. However, after about the fourth time, he was like, oh, we're going. I can go. And he walked off with me. And I could have, okay, like, because before I had these rational thoughts, my other plan was I'm going to ride him with a flag. And if he won't go, I'm just going to flap that flag and hold on. And I bet go won't be a problem anymore. We might have a different problem. But so, like, I kind of envision, I don't even know what you would call it, like a 20-foot circle all around me of like an invisible force field. And that is my energy and my intention ring. And 20 feet, I say that because that's my goal. I would love to be able to project my intention 20 feet. Right now, I think I'm around a 4-foot mark. That's about as far as I can project my intention and my
It
energy.
depends.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you're not happy, you can project 25 feet.
Okay, maybe, but I'm rarely not happy at my horses. So
No.
I just picture this invisible whatever 20-foot circle because that's my goal. And I'm like, me and this 20-foot circle are going. Like me and my energy have just created a vacuum and we are going.
Mhm.
And then a reset. Okay, we're gonna go again. Because for me, and I could be wrong, and it'd be totally different for every horse, I'm sure. Because if I rode Tango like that, it would be different. But with Hawk, in that moment today, I didn't want to escalate the situation because he has a bucking problem or he did have a bucking problem and a pressure problem and all these things. And he's now totally cool with the flag. It's an extension of me. So I doubt it even would have progressed to that. But I didn't want to sacrifice his lack of tension to get the forward. Instead, I was like, well, I'm dressed warm. I got my heated vest on and I got my phone. If I get really bored, I can start Facebooking. I'm going to outweight you. I'm just going to sit here and outweight you. And at some point, you will decide it's better to come with me in my energy. And it happened a lot faster than I thought. And then I even progressed it to a small trot and called it a win and got off. And I know that's different for every horse, but I don't
But
know, that's just my vision.
you can always backtrack as well too. Usually, and I'm not saying that what you did was perfect, Christy, and you can totally do that. If you're okay, a lot of horsemanship is removing our ego and being willing to just be in it and just keep being in it. Like that's really I think the bulk of the horsemanship journey, however you want to dress it up with whatever gear, whatever you want to do. You know, and that's hard not to be in there to make the horse do the thing. So kudos to you for sticking to that today. The other thing is that you could backtrack as well. So I always think if a horse is, if I'm just having to use bigger spurs, if I'm just having to use more whip pressure, if I'm just having to like wish them forward, then I'm going to backtrack very quickly. And usually you'll find it. So, I'm sorry, Amanda, you were saying with your horse with the haltering when he grows roots, like that's ground zero for a horse that doesn't know how to release into like free forward motion. Um, I would backtrack and start there. And then I would build to the next thing. It's like, can you go into the round pen and free your horse into a free forward motion? And you'll feel it. It's not necessarily a tangible thing. It's like, I, it's definitely a visual feel thing where you can see when they're actually moving somewhere with their energy. It's like their whole body frees up. I want to be able to see that before I even get on the saddle. And then when I get on the saddle, it's like, can we achieve that? Like Christy and Hawk, you know, we do that together. I'm there and Christy's leg is super clean and I just get to back it up from the ground. So she never has to brace into her body. That's the other challenge is like our bodies inadvertently get in the way. Sometimes when we wish and think for things too much, we add pressure and then the horse waits for us. So then that's the next kind of hogtied moment is then the horse is like, oh, you're going to kick me. So I'm going to wait. I'm going to brace into the kick. So it's like you have to redefine. It's not an easy journey by any means, but it sure is a valuable one, especially when you're resetting horses and their expectations of how they think you're going to use tools and skills. So Hawk this morning was like, oh, Christy's gonna flap the flag or do the thing. And then he's like, oh, like that never happened. So I guess I should just walk, maybe do a trot, right? So it's amazing. It's like when you take the fight out of it. I had a paint mare the same paint mare I said I was a snob about. She started bucking as well. And I would just literally release my whole body and be like, give her the reins every time she went to go buck on me. And I'd be like, you're so beautiful. Let's just walk somewhere. And she would be like, what? Like it took her about 3 rides before she stopped bucking completely forever. Like it just really was this defining moment where it's like, no, dude, I'm not compromising your tension in your body and me, and definitely me because it sucks to fall off, you know, as I get older. So anyways, yeah, super cool. There's a lot of activities and exercises you can do to free up a horse too. So that's Christy, you should develop a course on that.
Oh, yeah, right. Because that has everything to do with hooves.
It's connected to the feet.
We're gonna have to start it and end it with a trim to really make this work. Okay, maybe we could, you know what? Maybe we could develop a course on getting your horse to move forward and then add a heel rocker and see if it extends the stride and gets more forward.
Yeah.
Let's do something like that.
That'd be fun.
Okay, I'm gonna ask one more time if there's any more questions before we let Mary go. No, everybody's good? Okay, well.
Oh yes, sorry.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Me. Yeah, I came in here like a half an hour ago, an hour later. So I forgot, like I had work here in the farm. So what was the first thing that was talked about here?
Well, mostly the topic of this was about releasing tension in the horse's body and how it will relate to the landing of the hoof. We mostly spent the first hour talking about body mapping, which is a way to release tension. I will post this recording. It would probably do you better service to watch it from the beginning than for me to try to summarize it in 30 seconds.
And it'll save you me going on a tangent again.
Yeah, probably better. It'll take me about an hour or so to get it back up for the recording, but I would say watch the beginning. It really, we just want to make the connection between tension in the body and the way the hoof lands because they're so intricately connected. It's unavoidable as much as I've tried to avoid it until this point. And now I'm done avoiding. So anyways. Probably better to go back. Okay, let me see. Heather, you have a composite question. Okay, I'll get to that in a second. Everyone's just super grateful, Mary. They all love this.
I see that. Thank you. And thanks everybody for listening in, putting up with my tirade. I tried to keep it short and sweet. And thank you, Christy, for having me on again. It's always fun joining this community.
Well, it's a win for us. And you know, even though I get to work with you, I'm super lucky. It's still cool getting to listen to you talk to everybody else. And I could hear this stuff all day because some of those things are not ingrained in my brain enough yet, like the rain thing. Still, honestly, I need that on a poster on the side of my arena. Yeah,
We'll develop
because
them. We'll brand out some posters. We need the round pen one too. Round pen's not built for
yes,
making a pretty horse run.
yeah. We need all the posters. At one point I was going to order them and then I don't know, back in the day when I was going to order them, they were all famous Pirelli quotes, and now I'd be like taking those down. Not that I'm against any of that. I just have evolved in where I'm at, and I wouldn't necessarily want to read the same ones. So I think I'd be constantly changing them. Probably what I need is one of those electronic sandwich boards, and we could change it as my views change.
As it evolves.
Yeah, okay, maybe not. Let's just keep them in our head. How about that?
Deal.
It'd be much better. Okay, Mary, I will let you get on with your day because you've graciously given us an hour and a half. Thank you. Thank you. And I will send you that video of Dixie. And I will also, for you guys, make a comparison of Hawk from before with his little short neck to how he looks now, because it is amazing. I just have to go back and find some of that video. Most of the old crappy video, I was like, oh, bury that. It's terrible. But I'll find it for you and you guys can see what we're talking about. All right. Thanks, Mary.
No problem. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
You too. Okay, Heather, do you want to go ahead with your composite question?
Yeah. So, okay. So I've been struggling a bit because it's winter, there's snow, there was mud, now it's cold. With the composites, I'm struggling. I want to prioritize kind of what approach. And her front feet are looking, you know, they've got some concavity, whatever. It's winter, it's soft. Like it's the footing's different. There's no rocks. What I'm thinking is because it's too much pressure for me to do all 4 of her feet in composites. Like I got her fronts and they stayed in them for 3 weeks, but they came off and it's just, but her back feet do need to try the wedges like therapeutically, like it's just because of her body soreness. So have you ever like done many horse like just doing the backs? I know it's common to do the fronts, but like would that really mess her up just to do the backs? Like
it depends on the horse.
Yeah.
If she's a really downhill horse, meaning that the withers are lower than the haunches, like up high, I would not just do the hinds because you're going to raise the hind end by 1/2 inch and you're going to dump more weight forward. If she's relatively flat or uphill built, then I wouldn't be opposed to doing just the hinds. And realistically, like it's not the end of the world. If she's already so compromised and sore that you need wedges, maybe that little downhill shift won't be a major effect. But to me, that's what I worry about. And most horses are a little downhill, so I don't mind raising the front end with the composites. But I would be worried if it were the opposite. Like if I did that to Tango, oh my gosh, she's already so downhill and heavy on the forehand. I'm sure she would just fall and kill us. It would be an epic disaster, not to mention it would be uncomfortable for her. So I would say it totally depends on your horse.
Yeah, because I could try. I guess I could because I find like she's got a very short back. She does have very prominent withers, so maybe she's not as downhill as I think she is. So I could try doing her backs, and if she visibly looks like really uncomfortable, I could just take them off. That's my thought process now. Just see if she hates it, but it might help a lot because she's like not like I don't even trim her back feet. Like I barely touch them other than the toe. Like I'm just trying to keep her toes back. And whenever I do that, she seems to stand a little more square as opposed to camped under. She's always like struggling with being camped under. Her pelvis and there's this like a posterior pelvic tilt always and camped under. So the wedges I think will help her kind of get. But anyway, so I could try it. And if it looks like it's uncomfortable, I think I'll just remove them. But I think maybe it's worth just trying once and seeing. And if it doesn't look good, then take them off. And
The other thing you could try that's a little bit easier to experiment with is try putting wedges in boots and
Oh,
see if the wedges make the difference you need them to make.
okay,
Because
good idea.
that's the other thing is quite often we think we need the wedge, but it's actually not going to make a difference to how the horse travels. Like sometimes it does, but sometimes it doesn't. And so before committing to actually gluing it on and going through all that work, throw them in a boot and see if it makes a difference.
Oh, that's good. Okay, yeah, I'll try that with the Cavallos and I can just play with the wedges I have. Okay, that's a good idea. I will take that suggestion because I'm like, oh man, this is what do I do? But
Yeah,
yeah,
I don't think
little
it's the
feet. It's got like her back feet are just not good. So.
yeah, I don't think it's the end of the world. The other thing I think about, mostly because of the founder rehab I've done, is I've seen a lot of those hind feet you're talking about, the ones that seemingly don't grow and are, low in the heel and flat. And I just feel like, where is the rest of the foot? And like there's nothing to trim, so we can't affect a change. A lot of those horses are biomechanically so sore in the front that they overweight the hind end and overutilize the hind end, that the hooves are growing the same as the front, but they're wearing more because they carry more pressure and have more stress. And so inadvertently, in putting your composites on the front feet, you are helping those hind feet.
Okay. That's right.
You might not be like in the moment wedging them or lifting them or whatever, but if you can make the front feet more comfortable so they can bear their share of the weight load, which should at a walk and a standstill be 60%, then you're going to relieve pressure from the hind feet.
Right.
But I notice a lot of horses compensate, and they end up really super tight in the groin. Those tend to be the horses that struggle to bring the hind leg out behind them for trimming.
Yeah, she's better bring them forward because she's tight in the groin. So that's a good point about her. Oh, sorry, I lost my thought. Yeah, she's so camped. She's always camped under, and that's why I think she has her heels are almost on the ground because she's got hypertrophied frog. Would think that would be a good thing, but it's not for her because it means she is like she's shifting her hips, she's like, I'm taking all this weight, I'm taking it off my whatever navicular fronts or whatever it is on. That's why her frogs are atrophied and her heels are down or
Right.
because yeah, that makes sense.
So
She's
just think about this for a minute. Okay, she's jamming her hind legs underneath her in an effort to rock back and take weight off those front feet.
Yeah.
Okay, you wedging those hind feet is just going to make that harder for her.
Okay.
All you're doing is preventing her coping mechanism,
Yeah.
but you're not actually contributing to helping her feel better
Right.
by removing the original cause or the suspected cause.
Yeah. Okay. So maybe even me focusing on the front is still a good thing. So
Well, that's just a wrench for me to throw into your plan. She could legitimately be sore on the hind feet and need some help on the hind feet.
Yeah.
But if the hind feet are a reflection of compensation from a weak front end, then in addressing the hind feet how you think you need to address them, you are actually going to be making it worse.
Yeah, that's true. I can
Because then she's got nothing to
she's
stand
like,
on.
oh no, she'll probably be really sore on her front because I did kind of think about that. I'm like, well, if she is using her, she is gonna be like, whoa, I really got oh, that hurts. Ooh, she's gonna be all body sore from that.
And that's the piece with trimming, farriery, whatever, that we really have to think about is like every cause has an equal or greater reaction. Like everything we do, whether we put a stronger bevel on, well, the pressure doesn't just go away, it moves. And so we are shifting it somewhere when we do that. Where we are shifting it to is what we have to be really aware of. And are we shifting it to somewhere that can handle it? Or are we going to make it worse? Like in a foundered horse, we shift the pressure to the back of the foot. Well, if a foundered horse also had navicular disease, that would not work. That would make it worse. And so, we really need to be aware of what's going on in the whole horse to know kind of how to do that. Or we have to guess and test and try and not be committed to an idea if it's not working.
Okay, thank you. That gives me more. I'll experiment though with some wedges and maybe in the back on just like boots. That would be not.
Yeah, whatever. It's just easier. It's not that you can't glue them on. You just might then be pulling them off, and that's a huge waste of time and effort and money.
A lot of pressure.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All right, no problem. Okay, I want to wrap this up. I
All
want
right.
to get another session with Dixie filmed today before the sun goes down. And I did think it would be kind of cool. Well, I tried to film one with Hawk this morning. I just thought it would be cool to show the difference in the two and what I keep talking about when I'm like, that's not light enough or that's not soft enough. But I didn't think of this till after I'd already worked with him and was ready to ride today. So he was kind of getting tired and I kind of rushed it because it was an afterthought and it wasn't helpful because I was off the camera for half the thing. So I'm gonna maybe work on that the next little bit for him just as a comparison. But I want to keep working with Dixie and really see where we can go with the landing. I'm trying, like, I am hyper focused on the landing because, of course, the hooves is what I'm really passionate about. But inadvertently, I feel like she's getting a new lease on her body and her balance and how to feel in it, which is really cool. And I'm so addicted now. I want all of my horses to feel this. I want every single one to be free in their body and feel so safe and home. Like, I just think what a terrible world that we take that from them in the first place. Not that we mean to, not that nobody means that. But inadvertently it happens. So I've become obsessed if you hadn't noticed. Anyway, okay, let's wrap this up because it's been long enough. It's going to take forever to buffer so I can get it reposted. And we do have our weekly check-in coming up on Monday. So if there's any more questions, any more stuff coming up, we can cover it then and do all that. Thank you guys for sticking it out. It was
Thank you.
great to have you here.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Have a good day.
Thanks so much. Have a great weekend, you guys.
You too, Amanda.